This video is meant for Mrs. Rose's AB Calculus class, and in it we're going to go over free response question number 1 from our limits AP packet. We're going to let f of x equals sine x over x. And for part A, you need to know what the average rate of change is, the definition is, in order to be able to do this problem. So the average rate of change formula is f of b minus f of a over b minus a. So we have to plug in the bigger number on our interval, the smaller number on our interval, over 3 pi over 2 minus pi over 2. When you evaluate that, we're going to get negative 1 over the x minus 1 over pi over 2 the x, and then we have 3 pi over 2 minus pi over 2 is pi, and then make common denominator, multiply by the reciprocal, all that good stuff, and our answer should be negative 8 over 3 pi squared. For the second one, our limit is really just plugging in the function, and if you recognize it, it's a special trig limit. So you should know the answer is just 1. But if you can't remember that on the AP test, you can use L'Hopital's rule. L'Hopital's rule says if you evaluate a function and you get 0 over 0, you can take the derivative of the numerator and the derivative of the denominator and evaluate it again. The cosine of 0 is 1, and of course 1 is just 1, so that's how we get the answer 1. For part C, in order to prove that you have a vertical asymptote, you would take the limit and you would need either the left or right-sided limit to equal infinity. However, since we know that the limit as x approaches 0 of sine x over x is 1 and not infinity, we can say that x equals 0 is not a vertical asymptote. Neither the left-sided limit nor the right-sided limit are infinite, so there are no vertical asymptotes. The squeeze theorem is used to show that sine x over x is really between two functions. And what we can do is say we know that sine of x, the range of sine of x, is between negative 1 and 1. So we can say that if you divide everything by x, that sine x over x is going to be between negative 1 over x and positive 1 over x. Therefore, we can take the limit as x approaches infinity of both negative 1 over x and positive 1 over x. Both of those are 0. And we can take the limit as x approaches negative infinity of negative 1 over x and 1 over x, and we both get 0. So therefore, since sine x over x is in between those two functions, by the squeeze theorem, this means that the line y equals 0 has to be a horizontal asymptote, since y equals 0 was the answer for both positive and negative infinity for negative 1 over x and positive 1 over x. Now we're going to go through and talk about the points earned for each part. Okay. For part A, you get 1 point for using the average rate of change formula, and you get 1 point for the answer. Part B is only worth 1 point for knowing the special trig limit or using L'Hopital's rule to get the answer 1. Part C, you get 1 point for saying no and 1 point for mentioning an infinite limit and 1 point for needing an infinite limit. There can't be any vertical asymptotes without an infinite limit. Finally, for part D, we get 1 point for figuring out that sine x over x is in between two other functions, one smaller and one greater. 1 point for doing infinite limits, proving that the horizontal asymptote of your bigger and smaller functions are going to be 0. And 1 point for your correct conclusion that says that you have a horizontal asymptote at y equals 0 by the squeeze theorem. And that's all 9 points.